Which is an overwhelming assortment of operations. And joining me in my theatre team are Dr. No, Bill Bailey. Doctor Who, Rhod Gilbert. Dr. Dolittle, Catherine Ryan. And Doctor, I think I'm a pair of curtains, Alan Davis. Right, let's see how the patient's doing. Rhod goes. Oh, that's bad. We've lost one already. OK, Catherine goes. Oh, that's better. That's much better. Yes.
Getting better.
OK, Bill goes. Wow, I see. And Alan goes.
Vehicle reversing. Vehicle reversing. Vehicle reversing.
It's so loud, some of those trucks.
They are.
So the other day, I was about 50 yards away and it was going, this truck is turning left! It's turning left! And it wasn't.
I know, but... Right, let's start with a special operation. How can you turn a muffin into an offensive weapon? I have muffins for you all. There are. There's some muffins. Help yourselves.
Douse it in petrol.
Yeah.
OK.
I don't know. Chuck it at someone.
Chuck it at somebody. Rhod, what do you reckon? Turning a muffin into some kind of offensive weapon?
Just remove the may contain nuts label from it.
Yeah. We're in World War II.
Drop it out of a plane.
Just a single muffin.
The muffin.
Now, teaching you Germans.
Drop it out.
Was it poisoned? Was it presented to Hitler? Oh, there you go, Obersturmbannführer.
It is the most bizarre thing, Bill. During World War II, flour mix was invented that could either be eaten or used as an explosive. And, yeah, so the mix was invented by the Office of Strategic Services, so that's the CIA's parent organisation.
Wow.
It consisted of 75% explosive powder and 25% ordinary wheat flour, which is the way I like my muffins. And so if the holder was challenged, it could either be eaten or you could blow somebody up. So the early versions made you quite ill.
No shit.
Yeah.
I think that was part of the problem.
Yes, yeah.
But later versions, they made it fully edible. And it didn't matter, actually, whether you had made the flour into a cake. You could stick a fuse into a muffin and it would still blow up. Have you ever done that thing of making an exploding cake for a children's birthday party? It's very naughty, but it's terribly funny.
And potentially fatal.
Yes.
No. You make a totally hollow cake,
Yeah.
and then you stick a balloon in the middle, and then you ice the whole thing, and when they cut into it, it goes boom.
Very good idea.
That's a good trick, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea, yeah.
Because the Germans had it as well. They had bombs that were disguised as a chocolate bar. They had a mess tin full of bangers and mash, which, in fact, was exploding.
Irresistible to the British Tommy. We jolly well shouldn't eat this, Roger.
Yes.
No, you're right. We shouldn't.
Enjoying your breakfast, Tommy. Yes, David.
And bombs were sometimes left in books. And they were triggered by the removal of a picture of a scantily clad woman.
Oh. Don't remove the picture, Roger. I can't resist her.
Now, I'm about to carry out an operation. What's the first question I should ask myself?
Is there a balloon in the patient?
Should I have taken all these selfies with the sleeping patient?
Am I sober?
Yes. Where am I?
Should I at least have a quick look on WikiHow?
So there's a list of questions.
Oh, is it? An official list?
Questions. The first thing you have to ask yourself is, do we have the right patient?
Do we have the right
It's the very first question. Make sure you know which bit of the body you are going to be
I
operating
thought location meant, am I in the hospital?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm in the shed with the pliers. Is this best practice?
If it said identity and then location.
What What are we doing in that location? In other words, what is the procedure that we're going to do? And did the patient, before they were conked out, say that it was OK to do this? So these are the things...
It's really basic stuff, this.
Yeah.
I thought our surgeons were kind of ahead of this stuff.
OK, so that is the extraordinary thing about it. 2008, the World Health Organization, they composed a set of 19 questions to be asked before and after all surgical operations to reduce hospital errors, and it's called the Safe Surgery Checklist. And it sounds really simple, but the use of this checklist has reduced deaths by 40%. And complications by 1/3.
So is that the... so before all these checks in, well, there's just surgeons just going, right, brilliant, right. Come on. Let's just tuck in. Come on, let's have his leg off. He looks like he could have his leg off. Come on. Next!
One surgeon who had no problem identifying the patient whatsoever was a Soviet surgeon called Leonid Rogozov. So he realised he had appendicitis, but he was visiting the Antarctic. So he had no choice but to operate on himself. Oof. So he described the pain as a snowstorm whipping through my soul, wailing like 100 jackals. I think he wrote that long after he was better, because I don't think he'd have come out with that sentence well yet.
What's it feel like, Leonid? It feels like a snowstorm.
He worked on himself for 1 hour and 45 minutes, and he was back at work within a fortnight.
He worked on himself for 1 hour and 45 minutes.
Well, it's that kind of thought, Rod, that led a man called Boston Corbett to perform self-surgery. Here is Boston Corbett. He is famous in history as the man who killed Abraham Lincoln's assassin, John Wilkes Booth. But he believed that he was very tempted by ladies and that he didn't like this, so he castrated himself with a pair of scissors. Oh, good action from the audience there. In order to avoid temptation of prostitutes.
He cut his own testicles off with the scissors to avoid the temptation of... Why don't you just walk down a different street?
Yes.
He thought that eunuchs were more likely to get into heaven.
I like him. I wish more men would take this path.
Every house has got scissors.
They say that delivering a child hurts as much as having your leg amputated at the thigh without any pain relief.
Who's been through those two things that can...
That's unlucky. That's a bad day, isn't it?
That's not good. Now, doctors, what's your diagnosis here?
He's fallen asleep on a stag do.
He was running a circus school.
The world's
Students
worst.
hated him.
It's a party game, is it? Pin the sword on the nutter.
So this is possibly one of the earliest anatomical drawings for medics. He was known as the Wound Man. It's a medieval image, first printed in a book, 1491 in Venice. It's all the various things. So he's been injured, if you look there, with daggers, he's been shot with arrows, he's been lacerated, he's been stung by bees, scorpions, been clubbed in the head, bitten by a dog, scratched by thorns, blasted by cannonballs. He's definitely got plague and bad spots, and he appears to have a toad in his stomach. So it's, as it were, the contents page to the book.
What a shame, though, for a guy who obviously looks after himself and goes to the gym. To go down like that. He eats paleo. You know, he's really healthy. He thought he'd have a long life, and then...
All of those things happen to him.
He's a curious contradiction, though. He doesn't look after his appearance enough to remove a sword from his head.
No.
He does buy his underwear in agent provocateur.
They're quite snug.
They are on the tight side, aren't they?
Yeah. Ironically, that's the most pain he's in.
Yeah.
Would you just...
It's gone right up my arse, that.
He's come back from a sort of Civil War reenactment, you know? So, how'd it go? Don't ask. You know? Nick the armour, I'm left in my pants, look at this.
He's going to go to the doctor, and the doctor's going to go, I'm going to try something new, hear me out, don't poo-poo it straight away. It's called acupuncture.
They also had one for women. It isn't just the Wound Man. They had Disease Woman. There she is.
Is Marvel running out of superheroes? Look at this Disease Woman!
In the United States, they have an exceptionally complex system for categorising injuries. It's called the ICD-10 system, the International Classification of Diseases. There are 140,000 detailed codes for different complaints, and they are extremely specific. So they include bitten by orca, forced landing of spacecraft injuring occupant, a Asphyxiation due to being trapped in a car trunk. Burn due to water skis on fire.
That's really hard.
How could that ever happen?
That is so unlucky.
My absolute favourite. Hurt at opera.
Otherwise known as the Abraham Lincoln.
Yes. The first attempts to categorise disease is in this country are the bills of mortality, and there was a man called John Graunt who was actually a haberdasher, but he was very interested in trying to work out the various things that people died of. So we're talking 16th century, and he put together these bills of mortality, and they're great. If you have a look, these are the different things that people died of. They are just gripping in the guts. 1,288 people died of that, gripping in the guts.
Grabbing.
Lethargy's already my favourite.
That's
a good one.
Yeah.
I can't bother.
That's the way I want to go.
Lethargy.
Too lethargic to live.
I quite like frighted. 23 people
Right,
died
good.
frighted.
Killed by several accidents.
I like just found dead in the streets, fields, etc. What? How did he die? I don't know, they just found him.
Some of these bills of mortality, they just had cause of death suddenly. That's it. That'll sort you out.
Yeah.
Teeth and worms.
How do you die of teeth and worms? 2,600...
I tell you what, look, Wound Man would have read that and go, yeah, I've had that, I've had that, I've had that.
Brain surgery. New, old?
Oh, no, it's probably...
I don't know.
Old, isn't it?
This is not brain surgery, but it's about a doctor's understanding the brain. There was a guy who got on the railroads, he had an accident, and he got a 4-foot metal rod through his head.
Right.
Phineas, is somebody?
Phineas Gage.
Phineas Gage.
Yeah.
Phineas Gage had an accident, pulled through his head, and they left it in because they didn't want to take it out in case it killed
Yeah.
him.
And he was fine till the train came through.
And then it affected his mood, so they were wondering where it had damaged his frontal cortex. Because, I mean, I don't know why they were so surprised that it affected his moods, to be honest.
Yeah.
His boss was saying he started swearing. His wife left him, I think. All his friends saying he's a real misery now.
Could you imagine his wife left him? He probably couldn't get in the house.
No, sorry.
Watch what you do with your pole. What?
He had to do a 3-point turn on the trains just to turn round.
But we're going back much further than the 19th century, so
Yeah.
Neolithic. It's probably the oldest of the practiced medical arts.
Would this be
brain surgery.
trepanning or something?
So trepanning, yes.
Yes.
They drill a hole in the head because they want to get out the little tiny bits of bone that have gone into the brain when they've been hit with a club or something.
A drill, though? How did he have a drill in the Neolithic times? That's quite
Well, they would have had like a chisel.
What would it have been in Neolithic times? What would the chisel be made out
stone.
of? A stone chisel. And then the hammer was made out of stone?
Yeah.
And the bed was made out of stone, I'm guessing?
There's a lot of stone. There's a lot of stone. Yeah. Have you seen the Flintstones? It's just like that, yeah.
Surely in Neolithic period, they didn't know that your brain was as important as it is? Because wasn't there a time when they thought that your whole personality was in your chest?
But everybody would have known what it was to have a headache. I don't think that's a new thing. I
Can you
think.
imagine if you'd said that to Phineas Gage? Yes, Phineas, we all know what it's like to have a headache.
Yeah.
I think maybe a lot of your personality is somehow in your chest.
OK, some girls feel that. That's fine.
I like her.
I think we think from here sometimes.
Yes, we think in an emotional manner rather than... Yes, I would
It's a
agree
good
with you.
foot above where we think from.
Wound Man was a medieval superhero whose superpower was having everything wrong with him. What would you do if you found 2,000 skeletons in your closet?
I would cancel my dog's credit card.
Catherine, what do you reckon?
I live in a Catholic church conversion, so it is likely.
Does it feel...
It doesn't feel spooky. My Nana was really upset, but it's been deconsecrated so that you can swear in it and do all sorts.
expect that happened before, don't you?
She checked.
Oh, really? OK, is she Catholic?
She is Irish Catholic, so
right.
I mean, and dead.
And yet she still came over to check. That's love.
Little too nosy for her own good.
So a collection of thousands of skeletons was discovered in Rome in 1578, and nobody knew who they were, and the church thought, this is fantastic, because for several decades the Protestants had been stealing their relics, and what they really needed was new ones. So they employed psychics to try and see if there were any martyrs amongst them, and when they found a likely candidate, they gave them a new name and a backstory, and they sent them out to the churches across Europe. They couldn't actually sell them as relics, but what they could do is they could charge them transport decoration, induction, blessing. They would dress them up, they would cover them in jewels like this and put them on display. The real problem with this was they didn't send them with any instructions. So it's like a flat pack without instructions.
Put a bit of makeup on it.
So loads of the skeletons were just...
Bung together.
Honestly, just all over the shop.
This was like the House of Lords, isn't it?
Now, time for a secret operation. What is the point of a tap in the ocean?
Oh. That's not a real picture.
It isn't a real picture, because in Britain you'd have 2 taps for no reason at all.
OK, I don't understand this. So you have a hot tap and you have a cold tap,
Yes.
right? Yes. Well, how's that? So you're trying to wash your hands, and what happens? You put it under the hot tap, you think, oh! And then you have the cold tap, yeah. How is it the British haven't discovered there's a mixer tap? What is it?
Excitement we get.
Is that, did you find that baffling when you arrived?
I still find it baffling.
Yeah,
and
no.
I don't understand radiators. Why you want to heat an entire house with a small, hot metal plate in the corner? It doesn't work.
What would you do instead?
We have forced air in Canada, otherwise you freeze to death.
What do you have a what?
What?
Forced air, just
You
the
know,
same as
a
aircon.
Forced air, aircon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never heard the term. I'm 40, late 40s, and I don't... I genuinely didn't know how old I was. But I've never... I'm not going to bother sitting here working out, but I'm 50 soon, and I've never heard the term forced air. Well, not in that context.
I love the fact... I love the fact, Rod, that I'm asking you some quite complicated science questions and you don't know how old you are.
I'm about 49.
You're about 49. Have you just worked it out?
Yeah. I'm so used to saying I'm 50 in a few years. I'm so used to saying that for a moment it's
No,
something...
the thing is, though, it is quite good to know how old you are. And the producer has just told me in my ear, Rod, that you're 48.
Is there a really easy way to remember how old you are? Is there like a little... some kind of song I can sing or something? Or...
I've never needed a mnemonic for my age, but I'm sure we can invent one. I'm going to come back to what's the point? What's the point? That's the question.
I've written one for you.
Yeah.
I've written one for you.
OK, here we go.
How about, like, what year are we in today? When am I born? Just take that away. You don't have to be a whiz. That's how old Rhod Gilbert is.
I just followed your poetic guidelines. I'm 48.
At the risk of repetition, what is the point of a tap in the ocean?
Is it so that when sea levels rise, you can turn it off? I don't know.
So it's not actually a water tap.
It's not a tap.
Rather
A tap or,
so what else could you tap? What's another kind of tapping that people do when they're trying to listen
know.
in?
There's a shark behind you.
Yeah.
Is it a wire, when they put a wire, transatlantic radio communication wire?
It's Cold War. It's called Operation Ivy Bells, and it took place from 1971 to 1981, and it was the USA wiretapping a Russian underseas cable. That thing, they're moving it into position there, is a giant tape recorder, and they just put it onto the wire. So the sailors on a submarine, the USS Halibut, located a Soviet cable. Halibut. They located a Russian cable off the Russian east coast, and they moved a 6-metre-long recording pod around it to track the communications. The thing I really like about it, because we're talking some years ago now, the device had to be updated every month, and so divers had to leave a submarine once a month and change the tapes. But it was hugely successful. It ran for a decade until a National Security Agency employee of the United States sold the information to the KGB.
Spying was a lot more hassle back then when you got to train a team of divers, get submarines. Now you just need somebody's maiden name and their first pet's name and you're off.
Yeah.
If you're Russians, you just have to go and see Donald Trump and ask him.
99% of all international data is transmitted through underseas cables.
Good Lord.
So you know when we talk about the cloud, it's actually underwater.
Cloud is underwater, Sandy.
Is that... It's done your head in, hasn't it, Rod?
Yes.
How old am I again?
Happy birthday.
I'm going to write down 48 and make a badge.
There we go.
550,000 miles of cable, so enough to get to the moon and back. And...
If you're on the moon
Yeah.
and you jumped off,
Yes.
would you land on the Earth?
Hold on. What are you doing on the moon anyway?
Well, I don't know, maybe...
Have you been left behind by a spacecraft?
Yeah. You've got an Uber and it went
Depends which
horribly
side
wrong.
you've got.
If you jumped off the moon, you would just fall, and you'd land on Earth.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think you'd be in a great state. I think you'd be like Wound Man by the time you got down.
They know about space. This is my problem with the sea.
Right.
They can tell us all kinds of things about planets and space and other galaxies. They've been to the moon, allegedly, but they've not been to the bottom of the sea.
I've been to the bottom of the sea in parts of it.
Have you?
Yes.
What's down there?
Dived.
My feet.
Yes.
Now, which body part was used to stop the Netherlands flooding in 1953? Yes.
Hey, somebody put a finger in the dike.
No, it's been mentioned on QI before. The story of the Dutch boy sticking his finger in the dike is a myth. What other body part might you put in a hole to...
Vehicle reversing.
Anybody?
The penis.
Penis!
I was sucked into that.
I can categorically tell you no dyke needs a penis. So... No, sadly, 100 men just put their shoulders against the water barrier. That's all. So it feels... I know, tamed. It feels really tame.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. But there is a story of sort of plugging a hole, done in a rather more dramatic manner. So these were the Great North Sea floods, and there was a danger of 3 million people being at risk if this particular dike had burst. And what the mayor of the town did, he requisitioned a grain barge, and he ordered the captain to steer it directly at the dike head first, and it plugged the breach, and it saved thousands of lives. So there is a story where somebody did something heroic, but it was neither done with their finger nor their nether part of any kind.
That must have been difficult. The water rushing.
Yes, and the captain having to decide to do that.
Could make that a film with Tom Hanks.
Did you know that some British canals have got plugs in them? In 1978, a man called Bill Thorpe was employed to work on the 18th century Chesterfield Canal. There it is, extremely beautiful. And he was dredging the canal to get rid of rubbish, and he accidentally pulled the plug out. And when he got back to work the next day, the canal was gone. Most canals were built with some form of emergency drainage, but he had no idea there was a plug. Now, for the mopping up operation that we call general ignorance, fingers on buzzers, please. To the nearest 5 years, what was the average age in the Home Guard? Yes, Rhod.
60.
60 is a very, very fine answer.
35.
It's 30. It's
30.
I was going to say that! I went up to 35!
Yes.
Well, 30 was my first thought!
half of the membership was younger than 27 and a third was under 18. So the average age was about 30.
My dad was from Ebbw Vale and my mum was from Abertillery, and they used to have the home guards in each of those towns in the Welsh valleys used to battle each other, you know. And what they used to have to do was take the flag off the town hall of the opposite town's thing. And he said that all the Ebbw Vale boys were up in the hills trying to make their way through the kind of forests and stuff across to Abertillery, and then they looked down and saw on the road below, and the Abertillery boys were going into Ebbw Vale on the bus.
It was incredibly popular being in the Home Guard. So when they established it, they thought about 150,000 men would volunteer. And in the first 24 hours, 250,000 men signed up. By the end of June 1940, over 1 million. 1942, nearly 2 million.
My grandfather was an ARP ward, and I thought that was quite special when I was a kid. And then I looked into it, and there were 1.2 million ARP wards.
Yeah, it was.
People just volunteer for everything.
They wanted to help. If you put it in context, the Chinese People's Liberation Army, which is the largest army in the world, has got 2.2 million men, and we had 2 million people in the Home Guard. But they did very important work, anti-aircraft guns, coastal artillery, and, in fact, over the war, 1,206 Home Guard men were killed on duty or died of their wounds. So not quite the comic thing that the Dad's Army shows us.
I see.
Now, how many stars are there in Orion's belt?
3.
3. Yay!
5. There's 5.
No,
7. There's 7.
It looks like 3. It's one of the most famous things. Do you call it Orion's belt, or do you refer
Yeah.
to Orion's belt?
I mean, we have the same solar system.
But it has lots lots and lots of different names. So in Latin America, they call it the Three Marys. The Arabic name is the accurate scale beam.
I mean, what is it going to be? Hundreds of thousands, but looks like 3.
No, it is in fact 9 is the answer that
One more go, I'd have got it.
It looks like...
I was going to go 9 next. I was going
like the guy who invented 6-Up and was so close to a successful soft drink. There are 3 that we think of, the bright ones that you can see. They're called Mintaka, Al-Nilam and Al-Nitak. But if we take Al-Nitak, it's actually 3 different stars. There's a blue supergiant and 2 smaller companions. And each of the 3 main stars in Orion's belt is at least 20 times the size of the sun and at least 18,000 times brighter.
Blimey.
But it's just far away?
It's so far away.
This is why I hate space.
Why?
Because I don't have the ability to conceptually understand how a mathematician can go, oh, well, because of this and this and my periscope, then, like, far away. I don't understand.
That's where you're going wrong.
Yeah. He's in a submarine.
He's in a submarine.
Orion's belt may have 3 notches, but it's actually made up of 9 stars. Now then, one test of a great surgeon is their ability to concentrate while under stress. So, while you are answering the next question, you have got next to you bananas and you have got a needle. So this is how surgeons learn to do surgery. What I would like you to do is half peel the banana like this, OK? Your needle has been already threaded for you, and I want you to sew the banana back together.
I can't open it.
Can't open it. Monkeys have mastered this.
Darling, put it higher up, because that looks awful.
Can't open it.
Before you start, what's your first question?
Am I
Is this the banana you were looking for?
Yes. Have I got the right banana?
Yes.
Is exactly right. OK. So let's try and sew the banana back together. Now, one of the great tests, because the whole thing about a surgeon is the ability to concentrate, I want you to tell me the name of the food that you are holding if it was made without using any pesticides.
Organic banana.
Organic banana. There we go. Yeah. Off and running.
I might as well go for it. Plum.
Is it...
My mind's a mess.
Catherine's doing a wonderful job here.
This is where I shine on a panel show of lots of men.
Oh, look at that! In fact, although it's true that organic food contains fewer pesticides or fertilizers than any other foods, the answer is that none of them contain none. I'm afraid if you're eating organic food and you think, yay, look at me, it has all got a bit of pesticide in it.
I tell you what, I have made quite an effective sort of dolphin there. Look at that.
Let's put our bananas away. That brings us to the end of tonight's operation. The anaesthetic is wearing off, the gloves are in the bin, and the panel and the bananas have been royally stitched up, which brings us to the scores. And with minus 35, yes, indeed, it's Rhod! Equally creditable, minus 27, Bill! Minus 16, Alan! With an amazing whole 4 points, Catherine! And it only remains me to thank Catherine, Rhod, Bill and Alan, and I leave you with this. When the West German Chancellor Konrad Adenauer succumbed to a heavy cold at the age of 90, he did nothing but complain to his doctor. I'm not a magician, said the doctor. I can't make you young again. I haven't asked you to, said the Chancellor. All I want is to go on getting older. Thank you and good night.